Hey everyone, Ariel Adams here with Superlative Podcast. Please listen to our other podcast, The Blog to Watch Weekly, where we talk about the latest watch news and reviews. Today on Superlative, my guest is John Isaac. He is the founder, CEO, and creative director of Artisans de Genève. John, welcome.
Hello everyone, nice to meet you.
So the first time that we interacted was a long time ago now. And I reviewed at least two of the watches under the John Isaac brand. And I liked what you did. I really thought it was cool. And then all of a sudden, you, I guess, stopped all that to focus on customizing watches. And you are now one of the world's, I guess, fanciest aftermarket watch customizer. What would you add to what I just said?
Yeah, actually, I started in 2005 with customization. So originally it was, let's say, a bit fun for me. I started in just because I loved customization originally. And in my opinion, it was just not available in the watch world. Just to give you a quick idea of my background, my grandfather was a tailor in Paris, actually, and he spent all of his life dedicated to clients, individuals. So I saw him dedicate all his time to serve and please clients. So when I thought about what I can do for my life, I simply asked my grandfather what I can do. And because actually dedicated your life to someone else is just unbelievable. He just told me, okay, if you like watches and if you like things like that, you need to learn. So not far from my house, there is a very small workshop, and they just do after service on different watches, on not a particular brand, but like every kind of watches. And I entered to the workshop and I asked the guy, actually, this guy is Christian de la Caisse. He used to be the guy in Paris who serviced so many beautiful watches. And he said, okay, if you want to do something, please have a seat and enjoy. And this is exactly how I started. Christian gave me the chance to learn how to be a watchmaker. I've been I was so bad. I was so bad at it, but I was quite fascinated about that. And day after day, I learned how to service watches, how to also restore watches. And a couple of months ago, a friend of mine told me, oh, you know, John, you the watch guy now of the team. So we would love to offer a watch to a friend. And then I say, okay, let's do that. So then we bought a very old watch, actually a vintage watch, that is a Rolex 6694. It is a manual winding, very small watch. And I said, okay, I just bought that watch. We are going to restore the watch because it's so damaged because of the time. And that's it. So I asked Christian, what could we do? And he told me, okay, we just have to restore the watch and make it pretty. So then we take it out, all of the parts, restored all of the components, and restored, polished all of the bridges, etc., etc. And then the dial. And I said, oh, look, Christian, look at the dial. The dial is so damaged. Maybe we should replace it. He said, no. We are going to restore the dial. And I said, but what you mean? And he said, okay, you know, it's black and damaged. So we're going to take it out, all the lacquer, and then we're going to do it again. I said, but then we can do it in white, gray. So yeah, you can do it anyway. It's the way you like. And I said, okay, this is interesting. And I said, okay, but my friend, she's just fascinated about butterfly. So could we maybe paint a butterfly on it? And I said, okay, I don't have the culture of that. You should travel to Geneva and meet this guy, Jean-Philippe, actually. And he's a dial painter and maybe he's going to do something for you. And then I've been I took the train to Geneva. I remember that it's like almost yesterday. And I came to this guy, and it was funny because the guy was a dial painter in the morning, and in the evening is doing cheese. So for me, it was like, what the hell is that? But I've been fascinated immediately. So then I asked Jean-Philippe, could you paint on the dial a butterfly? He said, of course, I can do whatever you want. And please explain to me what you want. So I said, okay, I don't know. I want a blue light background, and I want a butterfly with some green, green on it. And he said, okay, sure, I'm going to do it. Please come back in 2 weeks. I said, okay, no problem. I've been fascinated about those people. So wow. 2 weeks later, I came back to his workshop, to his atelier, and the dial was there, like totally restored, blue background with a butterfly on it. I bring back the dial in Paris, and then we reassemble everything, and we offer the watch to my friend. And now, immediately, everybody around become crazy. He said, what it is, this customized Rolex vintage watch. This is amazing. I want one. I want two. I want three. And then this is exactly how I discovered and I actually created that world dedicated to people who love watches but want something unique for themselves. I also decided to move to Switzerland, to live in Switzerland. And this is how I discovered, seriously, an insane world of beautiful people, a wonderful craftsmanship, but it's much more the people behind the product, behind all those know-how, that it is just amazing. And I decided to create Artisans de Genève like that. Originally, it was John Isaac because it was John and Isaac because of my grandfather, because he pushed me to do it. And my grandfather at that time passed away. And I just decided to create the company as John Isaac, as a memory to my grandfather. That's actually how it started.
What a great story, and so much to unpack there. But it sounds like you were really lucky with a good teacher to begin with, that it really started with someone who had patience, but also more importantly, like, gave you a bunch of tools and say, okay, do whatever you want, gave you the freedom to, experiment and discover, right?
Exact. It is exactly how I started. And also because for me, it was a kind of a game. It wasn't that serious. You say, okay, if you need to discover how it works, and you need also to discover why, I think that my luck was that Christian is doing after sales for almost 30 years. So his focus was to see how he's going to resolve some problem, and things that that Christian pushed me to understand every know-how and every world, because in the watch industry, what is beautiful is for every component you have a know-how. So if you want to dedicate your life on watches, you need to also know how to talk to those people, how to explain what you want, what your vision, what you're feeling, because otherwise it's going to be, I think, you're going to pass. You're not going to get what you want, actually. Yeah. So I think that was my luck.
It's similar in the tech industry, where if you want to build a cohesive product, you need to know how to speak to like a bunch of different types of tech nerds and be a liaison as well as share a vision. And what you're saying is exactly true for watches. The process of refinishing a movement is entirely different than the process of engineering a movement, which is entirely different than the process of gem setting, which is entirely different than the process of hand painting a dial or engraving something. These are all their own unique disciplines with their own cultures, their own languages, their own, pros and cons. and you need to know like nothing, not any of these perfectly as much as the artisans, but you need to know how to communicate with all of them, which is probably why it's a good idea that the brand is called the Artisans of Genève, because that's really what it is. And you're the guy in the middle. You're the middle of that spoke. You couldn't do it without them, but individually, they just do their task, right? They don't assemble it into a larger piece.
Exactly. This is why it's called Artisans de Genève. It's because we try to do a kind of union of many know-how just dedicated to you. That's exactly what we do.
And I think what's also important to say is the access you have is just as important as the experience you have. If somebody wants to modify a watch or even restore a watch that's in a good way, they have to know all these different characters. You've spent years doing it. You're right there. You know the people. You sort of grew up around it. It's knowing those folks. It's having those connections which allow these complicated things to get made. Even though a watch is small, in many ways, it's just as complicated as building a building. And you know that for a building, you need what? You need painters, electricians, plumbers, roofers, all those different things. A structure needs all of that. You can't just hire like an electrician and be like, you can do the whole building, right? So in the middle there is what they call here in America the general contractor, right? The foreman, the person who may not be doing the work, but is the central part of it. In a movie, it's probably the producer, maybe the director, depending on how on the production. But these individuals are who create the value. All these people on their own are fantastic, but you create independent value by creating a new thing for them all to work on together. And that's essentially why people pay the big bucks, because you hear this all the time. Oh, I could go to Switzerland and do it myself. And you're probably like, sure, go try.
Exact. We see each other as an architect, actually. We try to reassemble all those know-how, all those savoir-faire that most of the time, they don't work for big names anymore. Because all of what they does is unique all the time. And it's like almost impossible to repeat the same gesture every day. Most of the time, big names or big brands are not really interested on that. So when actually every day or almost every day, we bring them new challenges, new ideas, new vision, new wish, new dream. For them, they keep going to do it and do it and do it again and again. And this is wonderful because it's not a job anymore. It's a passion. Really, it's a pure passion, and working with them is just amazing.
So let's talk about one of the more complicated things of your business. Understanding the watches is complicated, making them is complicated, but the way you market yourself is also complicated, and it's made complicated by certain legal realities. And I think this is an interesting part of the personality of the modification side of the watch industry. I think the car world has a similar thing, but a little bit different. The watch industry has a huge amount of restoration, modification, but there's sort of a fractious relationship much of the time with the original product makers and things like that. So you're not a watch brand in the traditional sense. How do you describe in a succinct way what the company does, given this strange way that you are forced to communicate?
It's a good idea. It's a good question. Sorry, Ariel. I see Artisans de Genève as a complementary. It's not a watch brand, actually. We don't produce watch because our clients brings their own watch to do something on it. So I really consider Artisans de Genève as a complementary company dedicated to final client. Since the beginning, we always wanted to offer that services because we don't want to be seen as a watch company or as a watch brand. We really want to be seen as a workshop dedicated to the wish of a private client. This is very important because this is the essence of what we're doing. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense. The idea is not to compete against brands, but it's to be a way to give a second life to the original product. So most of the time, our clients bring them own watch, or it happen also they're going to buy a new one to customize it. So there is no frame. It's really up to any of the client. Sorry, it's really up to the client.
So I think this is important for people who want to potentially do business with a company like Artisans de Genève. And they have to understand that they cannot just go to you and say, hey, John, what do you have in stock? Because it doesn't work that way. You're not allowed to buy a Rolex, modify it, and then sell it as a modified Rolex, because Rolex isn't happy with that. So the workaround is the consumer buys a Rolex at retail, however they want to get it, doesn't matter to you. They then give it to you and say, Artisans de Genève, this is how I want my watch to be modified. And you come up with a proposal, you agree on terms, and then you make it. But the idea is that you don't have a selection of watches. You have examples. You have things you've done in the past, which you hope will inspire people for the future. But unlike most other companies selling watches, you don't actually have something to show someone where you can say, you can buy this today, right?
Exactly. We don't sell watches at all. It's something that we are not interested to, because we dedicated to our actually, as my grandfather, I dedicate my life to you. I'm not interested to customize watches and sell it as an artisan de Genève. I'm not interested on that whatsoever. I'm not. I know that some companies does, but not me. I really want my clients bring them own watch and say, okay, this is what I want. This is what I dream of. And please, Artisans de Genève, find me the best expertise to realize my dream. This is what I want. Something for you.
So you chose a very specific direction when you decided to become a watch personalizer. And I completely understand the approach where you want to make people happy, right? Someone comes to you, they have a need, you work directly with them. It's totally different than going out and making 100,000 units of something and selling to people you've never met. It's a completely different type of business. But within this space, within the context of personalization, the watch industry has many flavors of it. And some of the original flavors were, I'll make you a watch from the ground up. You have access to all the people that can do that. Some brands create models that are foundations for customization, sort of an existing case and movement, and then the case gets decorated and a dial gets made per the user's wishes. Your strategy was different than those others, and that is to take something that another company made and put your own twist onto it. It's its own separate area. It's not redundant with the others, but I'm just curious why you chose to go that route.
It's a pretty good question. Originally, I was passionate about watches, about many, many, many brands. Not not like one or two, but I love all of the brands. I love all of the watches. And in my opinion, it is also a very cultural thing. I mean, today everything is customized. If you look at the watch, if you look at the cars, if you look at your shoes, if you look at your suits, everything is dedicated to you. So I think that it was just obvious for me that there is a space of using something that you love and creating something for yourself. It's not because when I started in 2005, it was a bit taboo, let's say, to take a watch and customize it. Most of the people said, "Oh, why are you touching it? It's you're gonna touch the originality of the product." And then years after years, and also because many collectors come to us and started to customize their own watch, then it becomes natural and obvious. But as you can see today, for example, in the car industry, every car is created for you. It's not possible to go to a garage and say, okay, hi, I want that car or that car as it is, and then living with it. It's not possible. So I think it's just a momentum and also a very, how to say, it's a new way of see things. But also, remember, I think it came naturally for me because I learned watches through the after sales. So because of my story, it was like obvious that this is exactly what I should do. But it wasn't a strategy. It was just that my grandfather was a tailor. So people bring them their own suit and change things and make it shorter, make it longer, change the inside of the suits, etc., etc. So for me, it was supernatural. But it's true that in 2005, when I started, for most of the people, including the journalists, it was a bit like tricky things. Because for most of them, touching a watch was a bit conflictual, let's say.
I remember the first time I started covering Bamford watches, right? And Bamford has gone on to really change what he does in a lot of ways. But Bamford really started as a Rolex modifier, and his work was very, very different than what Artisans does. But he would basically just take Rolexes and in a lot of instances make them black, right? And that worked. And there's a certain type of novelty that existed at the time. But it was even for him, it was a hard sell at the beginning. There were certain people that got it, and there's certain people that are like, what are you doing? And this actually brings me back to law school, where I remember learning something called, sorry for my pronunciation, droit moral, which is essentially the artist's rights, DROIT. And it's a unique legal perspective that does not really exist in the United States. And it says that even after an artist's work is sold, that artist still has rights over its modification. Yeah. And in the United States, we don't have anything like that. If you sell something to someone and they buy it, they can basically do whatever they want with it. They can't say the original artist did this. That's not, that's not true. They can't do that. But there's really nothing stopping anyone from modifying anything after they purchased it. You could buy a Picasso and decide that you want to paint all over it. You can. In France, this heritage of the artist's right is an interesting phenomenon, and it extends into the watch industry in a lot of ways where even if it isn't a strict law, there's a presumption. Don't change something that someone else did because you're violating their artistic right. And again, there's a lot of gray areas and a lot of nuance. And of course, the question is this art? But that is part of the culture. And I think that's very important because it has a big impact on some of these taboos, as you call them. And I'm sure you've experienced both people that love the idea and some people that probably still today are somewhat shocked by it.
Yes, it's true. But in my opinion, and it's only in my opinion, there is a huge difference between piece unique, art, painting, that you mentioned Picasso, he made only one. So touching something like that, it's different comparing to do hundreds, millions of the same product. So,
I agree.
So of course, we can see watchmaking as an art. But you can see also watchmaking as an industrial thing, and it is different. It is. So yes, I think that in the beginning, in 2005, for most of the people it was taboo, but today in 2025, I have to say that a lot of collectors want to do something for themselves. in the best way possible, which is a bit different comparing to in 2025.
I think that was actually my biggest problem with a lot of the original Rolex modification I saw. And that was the very clear difference between something that Rolex made in terms of quality and the modification. And I think that's for me where the taboo was don't take a Rolex and make it worse. And I think that you implicitly understand that. And you're right. If people don't see the actual outcome and only hear modification, it doesn't really show you the difference between a Rolex that is modified to look worse than original and one that is, I don't want to say better, but just as good, fits the same type of expectations, the same type of detailing. In other words, respects the foundational thing that you are modifying and tries to make it better rather than to cheapen it. And there's no rule to do this. It's really just a matter of taste and culture. It's sort of, you get a bunch of people to have experience, and then you show them different varieties of modified Rolexes, and they will inevitably say, these ones are amazing. This one, what were you thinking? But that is really where it comes down to. So if it's tasteful and it looks better than the original, everyone's like, good job. You did a great thing, John. But if it's worse, people are like, how dare you? How dare you, right?
More or less. But to be absolutely honest, first of all, we don't do customization only on Rolex.
No,
we do also on Patek, on Audemars Piguet, on Vacheron Constantin, on François Paul Journe. So different brands actually. But it is true that when I launch Artisans de Genève, for me the main focus was to be at least at the same level of the original product.
And that's hard. Like that's easier said than done.
It is very hard. And because I have to say that Patek or Rolex, in terms of craftsmanship, it's unbelievable. It's insane. It's wonderful. And I think that the reason of our, let's say, reputation is because we love those brands. We love them, all of them actually. And of course, you mentioned the legal issue. It doesn't matter. It's just a conflict of a vision, approach of the things, and I understand that. I really understand. But I think that it is absolutely impossible to do what we do the way we do without loving them as much as we love them. Seriously, it's just impossible.
And you are probably the only company I know of that is in this space that has sort of like a special pass. You're right there in Geneva. You obviously respect what they do. I feel, and again, maybe I'm wrong, correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like even if they could go after you sometimes, they're like, oh, but it's nice. But it's nice. It flatters us. It makes us look good. Why would we have a problem with it? As long as you flatter them, they're going to be okay with it and feel that you're helping them, right? And that you're more expensive. That helps as well. You're not a competitor.
I'm not a competitor at all. And but it is very difficult to respond to that because it's a question of opinion, to be honest. And I guess for them, it's a bit difficult to maybe accept that them own clients want to modify them watch actually, but it is what it is. But I have to say that most of the time our clients, when they bring them own watch, they also love the original brand. So when I told you that it's a cultural thing, that it's, for example, I'm a car passionate, and I love what Singer does. For example, when I looked at what Singer does on Porsche car, it's seriously, it's amazing. It's just wonderful. When I look at Gunther, when I look at AMG today, when I look at all those customization company too, I think it's amazing. It's amazing to just create something for yourself. And it's not a conflict between the original brand or the original manufacturer, sorry. It's just that a way for the final clients to create something based on the watch they love for themselves. That's it.
In the car world, which I completely agree is the closest comparison, do the original car manufacturers tend to have a better relationship with the modifiers than in the watch industry? Because it seems like there's actually a lot of cooperation between them, whereas in the watch space, again, there tends to be more competition.
I think that first of all, tuning started in maybe almost 50 years ago. Like
so it's an older industry.
It's an older industry. So in 1980s, 1990s, we started to see companies doing some tuning and all those kind of things. And today, tuning is everywhere in the car. So it's like that. It's like very very common, I say. But in the watch industry, for some reason, it took a little bit of time. As you can see, 20 years ago, it was like impossible to imagine where we are today. Seriously, it's like impossible. And the quality of our clients today are just amazing. Seriously, they really love watches, and they love also a certain kind of independent touch that they can get on a like a contemporary watch. You understand what I mean?
Yeah. No, and the psychology of who buys a modified Patek, Rolex, whatever, versus who buys some exotic $300,000 multi-axis tourbillon, that's a whole other area. And I love that area. But it's always interesting to think about the psychology, of course, of your clients. Now, I think it's undeniable that if you think about a social context, someone having a modified Rolex that was made for them sounds way hipper to more people than here's some object that you've never heard of. So I think there's less social friction and more immediate, we'll call them mainstream coolness, by taking a brand that people may know, but saying you're not going to find this anywhere. And not only that, I had this entire other team do all this stuff. And I'm sure a lot of your clients report that in the social context, they might get more response, we'll put it that way, with one of your products versus some esoteric niche handmade watch that no one's ever heard of.
Exact. You know, our clients, they really, first, most of the time they have a very strong character. So originally, and when you looked at all those legends and celebrities and people that came to our workshop actually to create something for themselves, I think that all of them have a huge personality. When I look at Kravitz, Spike Lee, John McEnroe, Adam Levine, and there is so many actually, and all of them are so different in terms of their personality. They don't want to wear the same watch as other people. They want to create something for themselves. But it is very important for me to tell you that most of the time, it is absolutely not the first choice. It is maybe the fifth or the 10th.
Not their first watch.
Yeah, it's never the first watch.
No.
It's after a very long process that they want something for themselves. But what is beautiful is when they touch that experience with us. They never go back to buying something like in a market or in a shop. Most of the time, they really want to keep going and creating something for themselves again and again and again.
So I'm going to make a kind of crazy comparison here, but I think you'll appreciate where I'm going with. Getting a watch modified through Artisans de Genève is a lot like an extreme sport. It's kind of like jumping out of a plane. You need a lot of bravery the first time you do it. People seem to enjoy it. It looks fun, but you're like, I'm going to take this otherwise good watch and destroy it? Like, is this okay? And it takes a leap of faith to do something potentially very damaging to your budget. And you don't know what the outcome's going to be because you've never seen it before, right? It's not a lot of assurances because you can show examples. You can say, we've made these other customers happy, but at the end of the day, they don't know what it is. But once they've tried it once and they've got that adrenaline kick, they become comfortable, as you said. And they're like, oh, This isn't so bad. I actually like the outcome. But you must agree that there's an initial courage, which is absolutely necessary. And that courage is only developed through experience. So it makes total sense that an Artisans de Genève product would never be someone's first watch. How else could they even know what they want different if they don't have experience with other watches, right?
Exactly. It is. I can say it better. It's exactly the reality. In the beginning, there is a kind of, oh, I love what you did for that client, another client. Most of the time, it's word of mouth. Actually, they saw a watch through another collectors, another passionate guy in the region, and then they say, "Oh, you see, it's not that bad actually. I love it, and I want to do something for myself." But it's true that in the beginning, it needs time, and that's the reason why we created also a fantastic world in-house to follow every demand, and then to try to create this kind of unique experience that you're going to get at Artisans de Genève. Because it's not like, okay, hi, John, I want to do this and that, and I'm going to send you the watch and that's it. It's not going to happen like that, actually. First of all, we have the first pitch. Then we're creating some mood boards. Then we're creating some designs. Then we're creating some sketches and gouache, just to have the perfect look of what's going to be the final result. Then we're going to do some pictures. Then we're going to put the watch at the workshop. Then we're going to disassemble every component, and stage after stage, we follow the process with the client. So it's going to experience something that is not that it's there is nothing like that in the watch industry.
Now, an interesting thing occurred to me, and that is the matter of not pricing, but when you actually bring pricing up. Because, of course, there's the cost of the base watch. Maybe they already have it, but they have to buy it. That's one thing. You don't control that. But you can't say the customization will cost this because you haven't gone through the process of what it is they want, right? What they want has a great... There's no average price. Maybe there is an average, but you can't say, oh, it's going to cost this in advance. So the question is, and it's a very pragmatic issue, at what point in the discussion do you say, I think it'll cost you this? Because maybe, of course, there'll be some other hidden costs later you can't anticipate. But at some point, you have to say, we have to stop this creative conversation and say, where we are right now, this is more or less what it'll cost you. And again, it's important for the consumer because they need to know generally what it's going to cost so they can decide to do this thing. So when do you bring up price, and strategically, how do you go about it in a way that allows you to have enough of a conversation but not derail it when they realize, like, oh my gosh, this is going to cost me way more than I thought?
Again, it depends. We have two different scenarios. The first one is I saw that commission on social media through my friend, etc., etc. This is more or less what I want, but in different colors.
That's easy.
Could you please give me an approximative rate? Okay, that's very easy. Or I want to start from a white.
Whiteboard,
canvas,
start from scratch. Blank canvas.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Black canvas. Let's work on something that I dream of, but I have no idea what I want. So then, step by step, from the mood board, then the design, etc., then we will have the final result. At that time, we can say, okay, it's going to cost you that much. Otherwise, it's like almost impossible to say.
But you agree, that's one of the hardest part of what you do is when to bring it up and how to bring up pricing, because that's a delicate thing. You obviously, I mean, look at your original story about restoring that Rolex watch as a gift. You took apart a whole movement. You fixed the whole movement. You made it nice. You put it back together. You traveled to a different city. You painted a man to paint a dial that took 2 weeks. Then you had to put in the watch. Like, this is not cheap. This is a lot of human time and effort. This is not an inexpensive thing. It's not expensive because it has to be. It's just expensive because, you know, like that's all the steps, you know, you're not trying to be exclusive. You're just trying to be real with the quality that you're trying to seek. So I think it's very interesting. And this is not the only luxury area where pricing is a weird thing to bring up. Customers, of course, know it's going to be expensive, but, you know, even the very wealthy can be shocked sometimes. And you're not there to charge them more than you need to, but you want an engraved this, you want a painted that, you want a remade movement, you want another material. Like, it costs you all, right? So it's a complicated thing.
It is. And most of the time it takes between 8 to 12 months of work. It's not a fast thing. So we dedicated our life to create beautiful things. But that's actually all the craftsmanship. It is about that. It's not about time. It's not about how much I'm going to spend. It's what is my target and what I'm going to do to reach it. So you're right. It's a very delicate thing because most of the time people don't realize that it's totally different comparing to I'm going to produce hundreds of watches. It's different because here at Artisans de Genève, every component is yours. So you can creating things on actually every component. It is very, 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 very difficult.
Now, do you have a list of creative ideas that you and your team have come up with, and you just sort of wait for the right client to come along? Meaning you design it, but you're kind of making them think like, oh, I can do this for you, so that you can both be a designer and be a bespoke maker, right? Because I'm sure that naturally you're working with these watches. You say, you know what, next time I'd like to do this, but you don't necessarily have a platform to do it because, as you said, you're not a watchmaker. But people come to you on a regular basis, I'm sure, and want your services, but have no clue what you want. And then you get to be, you know, maybe a sales guy, maybe a bit of like an artist, and you sell them on something that you already kind of wanted to do. Is that part of the game?
Yes, actually, after 20 years, we experienced many things. Actually, we know what is working and what is going to be a nightmare, actually, or how awful, or in our opinion, not tasteful. The thing is, people want to customize their own watch, but they also want to wear it for a very, very long period. It is something for themselves. So, of course, I think that clients and watch passionate expect from us a huge, huge expertise. They want us to also drive them to something that they're gonna like or they're gonna love. Of course, they have a kind of idea, or for example, if you are a green guy or a blue guy, then you will come up with okay, you know what, I want to do that watch in blue, for example. And then it is our role to say, okay, of course, we can do it in blue matte, or we can do it in shiny, but we could also do it in enamel, or we can also do it like through a stone. So, you know, there is many options that it is our role to try to find the best option possible. So I think that originally they come with a feeling, an idea, a wish to do something for themselves. But I think that they expect from Artisans de Genève a very, very strong expertise to create something really different and really unique, actually.
I have to ask, since you brought it up, in terms of the things to avoid, what are some customization things that you just tell people you don't want to do this? I'm really curious.
most of
because
the
they're
time,
ugly or it's too fragile.
it's, come on, ugly or tasty or beautiful. It's a question of taste. It's a question of your personality, your culture. It's, it's not, I don't think it's our role to say it's beautiful or not beautiful.
Okay. So what do you say no to? What do you say no to?
I don't like to copy things.
Okay.
For example, if you mentioned Rolex or Patek, if Rolex made something in today, the thing is not available in the market, I'm not gonna do it. Let's say
I see.
tomorrow, because it doesn't make sense for me.
Okay.
Okay. We could, but this is something that I don't like to.
What's just too hard to do? What's like not worth it? What's like clients ask for it, but it's just they don't want to pay for it, and it's just a pain in the ass?
I have no example.
Okay, so you're open-minded. That's what it means. You're just very open-minded.
Yes, because I really think that in any ideas you can find a way to make it properly, to make it beautiful. That's why I tell you, Ariel, it is our role to drive them the best way possible to create something unique. It's not our client's role. Of course, they can bring something and they should bring something, but we are here to create something really dedicated and delicate. It is very important.
So when a client comes to you and says, okay, I know I want something personalized. I know I want to work with Artisans de Genève, but I don't even know what watch I want to start with. And once I choose that, I don't even know how to modify it. How do you guide them? Do you start with the design and then the watch? Do you start with a watch? What do you do?
We don't. You don't? No, we don't. When someone comes to us and say, okay, I have no idea what I want to do. I have no idea what watch I want to work with. Sorry. Most of the time I say to my team, it's better to doing nothing, because it is a very personal approach. So if it's just to create something for creating something, it doesn't make sense for me. And today we have few demands every day. So we need also to dedicate our time to people that they really want something. And most of the time they know what they want. Otherwise they're going to be disappointed. I'm going to be disappointed for that. It doesn't make sense for us.
That's interesting. So you have found, and of course it's just your experience, intuition, that certain type of clients, if they don't know what they want, it's very difficult to make them happy. And you said in the beginning that your goal is to make them happy. So if you, from the beginning, don't feel confident you know how to make someone happy, you're going to spare them the frustration, right? Sounds like that's what's going on.
Exact. If someone comes to you and say, I don't know what I want, okay, maybe it's better to think about it and then come back to me, because that's the only way to create something really for you and the way you want. Otherwise, there is so many colors, so many possibilities. It doesn't make sense.
Well, then I'll turn the question around and I'll say, if someone wants to start thinking about working with Artisans de Genève or a company like yours, where is the best place to start? With the watch or with the design, and then later you figure out the watch to put it in?
I think both. Most of the time when someone comes to me and say, okay, I want to customize a watch, but actually I don't know how to do it, because most of the time they don't know how to do it and how to start the process. We start talking with them. We start understand them. We listen and try to understand, first of all, what kind of watch they love, which model. And then I said, okay, you love that Patek, you love that Rolex. Maybe let me send you a couple of ideas we already made for a couple of clients. And from that, you can tell me if you like it or not. But it always starts with a conversation. It's not like, okay, you can, because you saw that on Instagram or Facebook or social media, on magazine things, and that it's available. Actually, absolutely not. You have to come up with a feeling or wish. And from that wish, we are going to create together something for you.
Have you ever seen any instances where you create a design, the actual brand liked it a lot, and then put it into one of their production pieces? Has that happened?
I don't know. Maybe.
But it's possible, right? You might do some type of dial or bezel or something that's so nice, the brand's like, I think we should do that. Would you consider that flattering?
It is. It's wonderful, but you never know if the idea was in a closet for many years, and then they said, okay, why not? Or if because you made it, they said, okay, it's absolutely stunning, we should do it too. But I think again, we are not competing to anyone. We are here to create things. So when you create things, you have to accept that maybe you're gonna influence some other people. That's that I think it is beautiful.
One of the things I've noticed a lot, which is a trend for the last several years, and it's been a very strong trend, is skeletonization. And I've been thinking a lot about it because I don't always like it. Sometimes I do like it. And I noticed that not all, but a large number of the watches that you do are skeletonized watches. And I think what's important to say is you will skeletonize watches that typically are not skeletonized, right? Certain types of Rolexes or Pateks that are not skeletonized, you will offer it sort of a novelty. But my question for you is, where do you think the fascination with skeletonization is? Does it make consumers think the watch is more valuable? Does it remind them of mechanics? I'd just like to know your own thoughts on the psychology behind the appeal of these skeletonized or semi-skeletonized dials.
First of all, I would like to tell you how things come up, actually. Back in 2016, Juan Pablo Montoya, which is a beautiful car racer, Formula One, actually, came to me and said, John, I won the Daytona race a few times. I used to be an Audemars Piguet ambassador, and I asked for a skeletonized movement, but it was not possible. Even on my own watch, it was not possible at that time, actually. So I'm going to give you one of my Daytona, and I want you to create a skeletonized movement. In 2016, it was very, very, very difficult because, as you said, Ariel, the movement never been built for that actually. So we had to, by hand, open every bridges, every parts, just to create something unique and be sure that it's gonna work properly. When we launched the La Montoya in 2018, when we show to the world what Artisans de Genève is capable to do, the vision of the product, the vision of the original product changed immediately because it was another approach of a watch that everybody loves. Actually, everybody loves Daytona. Daytona is a classic, is an icon. So it was the first time that someone like Juan Pablo changed the aesthetic of an icon. Today, in 2025, I think that we are really known for that. And this is also a know-how that we have in-house. And that's also the reason why we created a lot of different skeletonization on different caliber. But I think it's only, in my opinion, it's the aesthetic that we put on a very, very iconic product that gave the feeling that I want something unique. I think that's the only reason.
No, that's interesting.
Without touching the DNA, without touching the DNA, we keep the DNA, but with another approach.
I remember when that Montoya watch came out, and I was one of those people that was very intrigued by it, because I hadn't seen that movement in that way. And I think that's what's so interesting is that if you've been a watch collector for any amount of time, you know what a Daytona looks like, but you kind of took its clothes off, right? It's kind of like semi-nude, and you're like, oh, this is an interesting new way of seeing it. It's not better or worse, but it's different and intriguing. And there's so much mythology around Rolex movements, yet you don't even see them that often. It wasn't until recently that any modern Rolex watches even had an exhibition case back. That's like an exotic special thing that they do now. So I totally agree. And him and also Mr. Barrichello were both, Audemars Piguet ambassadors or people that they had made watches for. What did they compare about that experience to you? Obviously, you were a little bit more open-minded, but talk about working with people who had these formerly highly prestigious relationships where, again, Audemars Piguet made essentially personalized watches for them. You just took it a lot further. Talk to me about how they felt about it.
It was a luck at that time because actually Juan Pablo used to live in Miami, and close to him Rubens Barrichello had a house too. So when I met Juan Pablo in 2016, he immediately bring Rubens in the conversation. So for me, it was just seriously, it was a luck.
So they're buddies.
They're really buddies, actually. And I think that Juan Pablo introduced Rubens to Audemars Piguet. So it's actually the second time. But, for Rubens or for Juan Pablo, the process is exactly the same when they build a car in Formula One.
Oh.
They want a team around them to create something for themselves. I don't know the story behind Audemars Piguet and Juan Pablo and Rubens, but I can just tell you that the process was. They said that the process was so personal, so dedicated to them that it's just another way to create something. And also I think that Juan Pablo created 5,000 watches a year with the Juan Pablo Montoya, and Rubens the same. They do 3, 4, 5 different versions. So it was on such a larger scale that you can compare to a unique piece, actually. So I think that they really felt as a very personal experience.
Now, some of the watches that you've made for people are public and on your website. I'm guessing others aren't, right? Like some people are okay with it, but you're doing lots of, secret work, obviously.
Yes. We show 1% of our work.
1%. Okay, so that's a small amount. And it's interesting because most customers, while you would love to show off what you did for them, they are the ones that get to choose. They say, thank you so much, but I'd rather not anyone know that I have this, right?
Exact. When we like a commission, when we like a realization, I most of the time call the client and say, okay, we love what we did for you. Could you please allow us to show to the world what we did for you? Most of the time they say no, because they want something for themselves only.
Yeah.
But sometimes they say yes, and it's just a beautiful way to show to our audience what we did.
And do you ever get reports from people about how they wear your watches? I mean, your process takes multiple years sometimes, and these are very precious objects. They're not just one of a kind, but someone had such a big process with you. So it's an important watch, and I'm wondering how you find they handle this mixture of wanting to protect it, but also wear it. Do people say, I wear it all the time? Is it something they keep in the safe? I'm just wondering if you have any intelligence on how people are actually wearing your products.
It's difficult because sometimes our clients make only one personalization, and sometimes they make a few. Oh. So we have clients, they make 4, 5, 6 customization a year. Just
So they have a bunch of options.
They have a bunch of options, but most of the time they wear only Artisans de Genève.
Really?
And yes, but there is also other watch passionate. They have one and they wear it sometimes, most of the time for a special occasion. But it's also a very specific watch that you can wear every day. You know, most of the time, the very specific watches or very rare watches, it's not easy to wear every day. But with Artisans de Genève, because it's so personal and they create it for themselves, they wear it every day.
Now, that's awesome. And I'm also interested to know about how they get them serviced. Obviously, these are watches that theoretically could go back to the original manufacturer. I can see them not necessarily wanting to always handle it. How do people service a watch that has been customized by Artisans de Genève? What are their options?
So it's true that the original warranty is void. So it's impossible to go back to the original manufacturer. You have to go back to us if you need to service. Today we offer a 7 years international warranty. Because since 1 month now, we give all our personalization through a time lab. Time lab is the lab in Geneva that gives, for example, Geneva sealed, but also chronometer. They give also the chronometry attestation. But in our side, they only control what we do, just to make sure that the watch work properly, the way we want and the way we promise. So now we offer a 7 years international warranty, and we have a couple of after sales service center in different countries just to service our client properly.
Now, it's interesting that your company has to do all of that. You know, even though it seems relatively simple, the nuances start to get very, very complicated, right? People are like, oh, but you don't even make watches. You just take them in and customize them. But servicing them, having all the different types of people working on them, make sure that they actually work properly, right? At the end of the day, you're not just modifying art, you're modifying a machine. And it still needs to perform as a machine. So it gets, you know, incredibly complicated in terms of the little nuances. And of course, you have to make the customers happy. I'm curious if there are watches out there that you would like to customize that maybe haven't come into your office yet or no one's brought to you. But are there watches out there that you would just love an opportunity to play with?
Richard Mille.
Okay. Interesting.
But it's very, very, very risky.
Yeah.
It is very risky, actually. But it's if there is one challenge that I may dream of, it's Richard Mille. Actually, it's so unique, so unbelievable in terms of technique. You know, it's then you like it or you don't like it. It's a question of taste. But you can't say that technically it's not unbelievable. So try to create personalized on a Richard Mille could be fun.
What would you do? I'm so curious.
I don't know. That's the thing. I really don't know. But the things that I, for example, we started to work on different jours now. And in the beginning, I was like a bit, do you think that we can do it or not? But at the end of the day, they are strong jaune collectors. And again, they want to create something for themselves. Most of the time, they have 15, 20 jaune. So they just want something for themselves. And because the brand or the workshop don't want to do anything like that, they come to us. But so yes, now we are working on several jaune. And I can't wait to see our clients' reactions.
That's interesting. I'm thinking about the possibilities of jaune modification as well as Richard Mille. And one thing that occurred to me is, I'm sure people have asked this, and I don't know if you've done it. I know sort of in the car world, this is sometimes a fun thing, but to swap a movement in a body. So to take two watches and try to put one movement into the other case and things like that, like take a Richard Mille movement, put it in a Submariner. I don't know. I'm just saying dumb stuff. But do people ever ask for stuff like that?
Yes, but that's the type of thing we don't like to do.
No? It's a bit weird, right? It's a bit weird.
It's a weird, and it's also, for me, it's not respectful for the original brand, in my opinion. Because again, it's a question of taste. But in my opinion, this is the limit that I don't want to, how you call that in English, the limit that I want to cross, let's say.
Who was it? I think in the 1990s, was it Frank Muller that took a Rolex and what did he put it? Perpetual calendar or tourbillon or something?
Yes, exactly. He put an annual calendar on a Oyster perpetual watch. And it's, I love that. Actually, I love that. I love that he was a student, and there is a kind of renegade, of the watch industry, and I love that, and I think it's super, super, super cool. So, but I've heard that then Antoine Precioso did something like that too. So you see, customization is
that's right.
Is
Antoine did that. I think he's the one that put the tourbillon in it.
Exact. Tourbillon, I don't know what he does, but it's nice. And actually, from a very serious watchmaker, it is interesting. So
and it kind of goes to show where there's a very thin line between, wow, that's cool, and no, I don't want to do that. That's disrespectful. Exact. It's a very thin line.
Yes, but remember, watchmakers, Patek Philippe, Audemars Piguet, Vacheron Constantin, originally, they created watches for private.
Yeah.
Originally. They were there just to create things that you want, that you like. So if you step back a little bit, with your opinion and philosophy and, I don't know, policy, all those kind of things, actually what we do is only watchmaking. We only doing things on an existing product, it's true, but for a private client. So there is no a huge difference between customization and restoration, for example. For me, it's super close. But it's just a question of, culture and how far you want to be, how do you want to be different, only, in my opinion.
I've noticed something very interesting about a lot of collectors, not all of them, but many of them, after they've been collecting for a number of years, gravitate towards only wanting things made for them. They've purchased all the common watches. They purchased all these watches that are available in limited editions and series and rare watches. But for whatever reason, not all of them, but many of them, they kind of just settle on this thing where, you know what, if I'm going to buy a watch, it's going to be something just for me that either has my name on it or has something special for me, some type of personalization. Some people just want their initials. Some people have a signature color. Some people want some design motif. But I just find that there's this tendency to move in that direction. If you collect watches long enough and you have enough money, chances are wanting one or more unique watches for yourself is going to happen, right?
Exact. And could you imagine for Artisans de Genève how grateful it is to creating something for a final client, knowing them. When I talk to Philippe Dufour, for example, or when I talk to Kari Voutilainen, when I talk to, independent brands, I think that sharing passion and knowing them clients is the key, because this is exactly what we do now. It's not a number, it's not a name. Actually, it's a person. We meet them, we know them. Most of the time, we know them wife, we know them children's, we know, and that's the beauty of what we do. It's knowing clients, knowing the final clients. This is seriously the chance we have is that. And most of the time when I talk to CEO from brands, because they come often, they visit us, they want to understand the way we do things and why also them clients wants to customize them watch actually. All the time I said the most precious value we have is knowing our client. It's just, that's our best gift actually.
And that makes so much sense because it goes back to the original idea that what you're selling is the personal service of making the client feel celebrated and rewarded. These are people who are coming to you to celebrate themselves. Let's be honest, exactly. The only reason that you get a watch so personalized, and I hate to cheapen the term egotistical, and it is sort of the nicer side of egotistical. It really is a celebration of yourself. The process of getting the watch made in many instances is just as gratifying as wearing it. Exactly. And wearing it without the process is not as gratifying. So it is the ultimate in giving yourself a trophy to celebrate something about yourself that you want to remember.
Exactly. You know, our clients, 10 on 10, they pass from a very transactional things to an emotional things. It's only emotional. They don't care about how much they're going to sell it, how much they can sell it, etc., etc. They want something for themselves. This is really different. They not look for, try to flip something or try to make money on it. No, they want to enjoy. They want to be listened. They want to be respected. And they want to live a very personal experience. And that's why personalization is wonderful, is because you're going to spend 1 year creating something for yourself based on the watch you love for you. This is seriously, it's unbelievable.
And that is definitely worth the money for a lot of people. And as you said, people come back because it's a nice thing. And I just sort of want to reaffirm the fact that all the most successful and best luxury companies that I know do exactly what you say. Focus on making the customer happy. Exactly. That is so, so crucial. If you want long-term success in luxury, look at the people you're selling to. Do they like you? Do they want to come back? Are you allowing them to feel the way they want to feel? And that is the trick. Making them feel like human beings, validating them. That's why it was so shocking to me that for several years, and it still continues, Rolex was making it difficult for people to buy a Rolex. It's the number one way of alienating someone is to make them feel like their money's not valued. And it was surprising to me that they would be in this situation and lean on this, well, our watches are going up in price. You and I intuitively know that's a losing argument in the long run. Put up with a bad experience because your item is a commodity. That's not how you build a luxury brand. You build a luxury brand by making people feel positive about the experience so that they buy a watch because they feel like you are celebrating with them. There's no better replacement for that. That is at the core of the highest end of this industry. And I think that it'll continue to be that way, no matter how much some people try to think that value retention is somehow something that very wealthy people care about.
In the other way, it is very difficult, I guess, for big company to service every consumer. Could you imagine 1 million and a half watches sold every year? It is very difficult, I guess. But it's true that that our clients really want a personal relationship. They are not interested. It's not about money anymore. They don't need a watch. They don't need it's like they don't need a suit anymore. They don't need a car. They want to enjoy. And again, they want to be listened. They want to be understood. And this is very, in my opinion, this is key. This is the key. And when we talk about customization or personalization, it's so personal. There is it's personal. So you must devote your life to your clients. And I don't know if it can work on a larger scale. That's why we have to reduce also the number of customization we can do every year. But that's also why today we are almost 30 people in-house, only dedicated to our clients. It's another business model.
It's so fantastic. And honestly, anyone who's able to go through the process is very, very fortunate. If you want the ultimate in personalization and want a team of skilled artisans in Geneva to do it for you, just head over to Artisans de Genève. I recommend you visit their website. This has been the Superlative Podcast interview with the founder, CEO, and creative director of Artisans de Genève, John Isaac. John, thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Ariel, for your time. It was a real pleasure. Thank you very much. And sorry for my English. I try to do my best.
You did great.
Thank you.